What's up, guys? Neil Orf with you to talk a little Sorare NBA for this upcoming Monday through Thursday slate starting today, March 13th. While you're coming in, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. We at Stochastic are excited to be an authorized partner of Sorare, and one of the first places you will find a bonus offer for Sorare NBA if you use the link in the description of this video. You will get our offer where you buy 5 cards on the marketplace. Doesn't matter what the cards are. Any 5 cards you purchase on the marketplace, they will give you a 6th card for free. It is a random card, could be a great one. It will be a limited card, number 2, 5,000. Those are the limited contests are the ones that I play. So the limited cards are pretty valuable to me, and you never know what you're going to get. So buy 5 cards on the marketplace. You'll get a 6th limited card for free. It's number 2, 5,000, tracked on the Ethereum blockchain. So you'll always know exactly how many of those cards are in circulation. Check it out. Again, the link is in the description. In addition to getting that free limited cards, because of our partnership, we have great Sorare projections at Stochastic. That's what I'm going to talk about in this video and how I'm using those projections for the upcoming slate. You can see our projections here. And if you haven't watched these, I'll go over real quickly how it works. So first, I'll show you actually the contest that I play. So I love the limited contests. So if you go to play upcoming, you can see what the options are. My bread and butter, as Greg calls it, is the limited champion contest. This one has a 120 cap using the last 10 averages. So again, last 10 averages essentially work as a player's salary. Whatever their average is over the previous 10 games, that is their last 10 average. And in the limited champion contest, the one that I like to play, so you choose 5 players that have a last 10 average under 120. However, there is an MVP spot. The MVP spot, their last 10 average does not count against the cap. So it's essentially your 4 players who are not the highest last 10 average have to stay under that 120 cap. So you can use an average of 30 last 10 average for those remaining 4 after the MVP. That is the limited champion contest, the primary one that I play. I also then always enter a lineup in the limited contender contest, which is a 120 cap, and there is no MVP. So you have to, all 5 of your players have to be under this 110 cap, just an average of 22 per player there, much tougher than the limited champion contest. The scores end up being a lot lower in the limited contender than the limited champion contest in general. And then limited offense, it's, they do different contests each week. The kind of side contest, new one each week. The limited offense this week is just they don't include the defensive stats, so it's just choosing players from their offensive stats. Now, what I like to use for that limited champion, the way I start building is I go to our Sorare projections, and I'll go over how these work. So you can see we have the default is to the value column. This is, I would say, the most important column because you can see exactly how valuable each player is relative to their salary. So it's the last 10 average. Again, that's just essentially the player's salary cap. And you can see that on the player cards. It displays their last 10 average, which works as their salary. The projection is how we have a player projected for their best game in the upcoming slate. So you can see here, Rodney Magruder has 3 games in this upcoming slate. In those 3 games, we have him projected for his best game to be 28.83. I guess I didn't explain this, you only get to use a player's best score from the period. So Rodney Magruder has 3 games. Whichever game he puts up the most fantasy points in, that is the game that he gets credit for in your lineup for this slate. Isaiah Jackson gets 2 games, so he, has 2 chances to put up a big score. There are some players on this one who just have 1 game. I don't see it on the first page, but Damian Lillard, the Blazers only have 1 game this week, so pretty risky to use someone like Damian Lillard, who's also, I believe, questionable coming into the game. But most of these teams have 2 to 3 games on the slate, so they have multiple opportunities to spike an upside and get a game that you really want to have in your lineup. But again, so the projection is the best of those however many games a player has. It is their higher projections, what we have the projection for. Pretty neat. Not a lot of places able to project out multiple games at once. Last 10 average, again, the salary cap, and then the value is just a differential. So Rodney Magruder's projection, 28.83, last average of 10. That's a differential of 18.83. He is the highest value on the entire slate. Looks great. And also, these are just the prices for the different types of cards on average over the past 7 days, I believe, or 7 purchases. I think it's the last 7 days. Either way, just gives you an idea of how much it's going to cost you if you want to purchase one of these cards if you don't already have it. So Rodney Magruder, under $5 here for limited card for Magruder as the best value on the slate. That is pretty nice. Isaiah Jackson, obviously, as well. We've got some tanking going on. This is it's becoming. It's always been. I've always played these stars and scrubsy, but it's becoming even more so viable to play the stars and scrubs approach because some of these teams are just tanking, players getting hurt. So a lot of value possible here. So typically I want to be using a few of these players who are some of the better values on the slate. I also, so in the limited champion contest, because the MVP salary doesn't matter, you can generally fit in two of the studs here. So like, if I wanted to use Jokic and Anthony Davis, Jokic's his last 10 average is 51. He would be put in that MVP spot. He won't even count against the salary cap. So you can always, the best projected lineup would have these two in it right away, most likely. It's a little bit unclear here because the best projected player doesn't have the highest last 10 average. But in general, one of the top projected players you're going to want to have in your MVP spot if you are playing optimally. I've got Anthony Davis in mind. He is the top projected player on the slate. So start there. From there, I just like to find some nice values. And you can see I went out and bought a Domantas Sabonis. He's a nice value, projects really well, and also relatively inexpensive to buy. So that's another factor for me. But if you're playing optimally, you would go out and buy a Jokic, an AD. Typically, I think because it is getting more stars and scrubsy, depending on how much you want to invest in this, I think it makes sense to buy two or three of these just absolute studs: a Jokic, a Giannis, Luka, Anthony Davis, Tatum. A lot of good examples. So you can see this week, Embiid, some of these higher average players, guys who are just going to be projected well week over week, especially because of that MVP spot. It just makes sense to have some of the biggest stars if you're willing to spend a little money on them. And Anthony Davis you can get for under $100. Domantas Sabonis, again, cost me just like $40 to get it, so I thought it was worth it to purchase that one. But in general, I would recommend having a couple studs that you just know are going to project well week over week, because again, that MVP spot doesn't count against your salary cap. The last 10 average isn't going to matter there. So the way I like to build, how I built it out this time, I bought and I already had an Anthony Davis. I went out and bought that Domantas Sabonis, and then I was able to build kind of a it's actually less stars and scrubsy than usual, because some of the better values on the slate are, if you search by value, we've got so much really good value, but then also like Tyus Jones, he's mid-level price tag here, 24 less than average, but then average projection of 38.5. He's a really nice value. Spencer Dinwiddie, I already had these two, so I built more of a kind of less stars and scrubsy than I usually do on this particular slate, but still have two of the top projected plays on the slate. That's generally what I would recommend doing. Just find a couple players who project really well, and depending on how much you want to spend and who you think, sometimes I also factor in the number of games a player has on the slate. So in this case, Domantas Sabonis with 3 games, that was also a factor in. He just has 3 opportunities to really spike an upside. That was helped me determine if I want to buy that one, as opposed to like Embiid, projects a little bit worse, also has a higher last than average. I wasn't going to use an Embiid on this slate, so I thought Domantas Sabonis made a lot of sense. But also if you want to fork over a little bit of money, I think it is worth it to buy a Jokic or Giannis potentially just for the remainder of the season. I think these guys you can count on being some of the top projected players going forward. Anyway, that's generally my approach is, have a couple of the studs and then look at the top value and figure out what fits. And, you want to use close to the full salary cap while using some of the best values. You're just going to that way land on the lineup that is close to what the optimal would be. And I've had a lot of success using that approach, just using our projections, looking at the top values, the top projected players, and kind of piecing together a lineup that uses a combo there. It's worked out really well for me. And on this slate, I also do think that the number of games a player plays can be a factor that you should be considering here, because 3 chances for James Wiseman to spike an upside as opposed to 2 for an Isaiah Jackson. Now, I still really like Isaiah Jackson, actually used him, but it's kind of a tiebreaker, that 2 versus 3. I think it is helpful to have that information there. So anyway, that is my general approach. Greg and I actually went over, we did a live video earlier this afternoon where we actually built out a lineup. So check that one out as well. It was kind of fun. Greg did land on the exact same lineup that I was thinking about building before the show. So you can kind of see, using the projections, how a lineup can come together. And some weeks of season, and those today, it actually came together pretty easily. The lineup that I wanted to use in that limited champion contest. But then we also made a limited contender lineup, which was I had not thought about at all at a time, and I thought it came together nicely. So check that out. You can see how we use our projections to build a really nice lineup. And we also opened a couple of the cards that I won last week. So check out that video as well. Anyway, that is my general approach to Sorare NBA. It's been pretty successful. Hope you can find some success using a similar approach this week. It's a lot of fun. So good luck out there.